Okay, so today I'll be swapping out this steering wheel here on the 2008 Ford Focus. This should be the same for any 08 to 2011 model Focus. Doesn't matter which version of the steering wheel that you have. Some of them are obviously going to be leather. Some of them have the steering wheel buttons. This is a base model, so it doesn't have any of that. I'll also be removing the airbag because that's needed to swap out the steering wheel. The reason why I'm swapping it out is, as you can see, the foam is just gone. It's just done. And you can literally see the steel wheel part underneath. So it just needs some love. Here's the steering wheel that I'm going to be putting on. As you can see, it matches. For the model, it does not match for the color. This is a little bit darker color. It's not quite black. It's more like a really dark gray or charcoal. I don't mind so much, you know. This is already kind of a two-tone color scheme in here. It's got some like black trim here, and then it's got the tan, and it's got the darker up here. So yes, this steering wheel won't match the airbag, but that's fine. I don't mind. I got a really good deal on it. It's a brand new one, which they're kind of hard to find now. And that was selling for less than what most of the used worn ones were that were this shade. Okay, let's get started. So the first step will be to pop the hood because we are going to disconnect the battery here. So here's the negative. So here's red, right? That's the positive. Here's the negative battery terminal. So we're going to disconnect that one. As you can see, that nut there is pretty corroded. I'm guessing it was originally a 10 mil, but a 10 mil for me doesn't work. So I'm going to use a 3/8. The reason why I want to take off the negative terminal here and disconnect the battery is, although it's very unlikely that the airbag will go off during this, this is just to make sure. If the airbag does go off for some reason, it's going to be a very bad day. A very bad day. So I'm just going to use a flathead here. The bolt there is loose. I'm just going to use a flathead to kind of pry it off the terminal a little bit gently. What a lot of folks don't realize is that while an airbag will, yes, save your life, many people do get injured by them. It's basically a miniature explosion going on in there, and the air is very hot, so people do get burned from them, as well as just bruised. I mean, there's a lot of force, which is also why they don't let children sit in the front seats. All right, so once that's off, I just kind of used a little flathead there and gently pried it off. Just tuck it away, you know, down here so it doesn't accidentally touch this again. Okay, so the next step is I just want to pry apart these two little trim pieces here that go around the steering wheel shaft. This is just a little microphone that I have for my Bluetooth, so I'll move that out of the way. I'll just let that dangle there. So these are the little trim tools that I have, you know, just universal trim tools. Super handy to have anytime you're working with like plastic. Okay, see that pops off pretty easy. There's two little clips. I believe it's just two clips on this side. And you go to the other side and do it. Okay. So you can almost pull it up. There's a, I'll show you here. So there's a little notch right here where the turn signal light windshield washer lever sticks out from. And I literally just kind of grabbed in there and just kind of gently pulled. So you see there's 3 tabs here, and there's also 3 here. And then I guess there's 2 in the front here, but those didn't seem to even really need to be pried up. Okay, next. So now to get the bottom trim piece off, there are 3 5.5 millimeter bolts. 1, 2, and then 1 more back here, 3. And I just have a little extension on here, of course, to get up in there. Probably be faster if I got my drill out. It's actually kind of a nice day out today. It's been really cold lately. It's the middle of winter. but the sun's out. I mean, it's still cold, but the sun's out at least. So then I pull down the steering column, adjust the lever just to give myself a little more room. Oh. Okay, so the left side's completely free here, but I think we kind of got to get it over the lock cylinder there. There we go. And it'll come out here. Just got to finagle it around everything. It is. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So this little lever there, you just kind of have to move this around till it gets around that. Okay, so now both of your trim pieces are off. Okay, so now let me show you our next step to get off the airbag here. So here's my new steering wheel, of course. So what we're gonna do, if I turn it over here, you see these 3 little metal pins. Those have to be pressed in towards the center, kind of like this, right? And so in order to do that, in order to get back there, it's gonna be a little hard to see from this angle, but like there's one up here, another one down there, and then of course there's another one on the other side. So what we're gonna do is you wanna put your key in and turn the lock cylinder as if you were going to start the car. Of course the car won't start because we disconnected the battery, but that will allow us to turn the steering wheel. Now it's gonna be a little difficult because of course there's no power steering right now, but it'll turn, and then that will allow us to get at these little pins that we need to get to. So just do whatever angle works best for you. What I'm gonna try here, I have a short little flathead, I have a longer flathead, and then I have these little pick tools. And so I'm gonna see what works best here to push in those pins to try to release our airbag. Okay, so we got one corner done there. Let's see here, so that's the bottom one. It's really, really hard to see here. There we go. This is the best angle for me anyway. Okay. Okay, so now I want to show you. So I got 2 of the 3 loose, and you can see this gap here, right? So it's almost ready to come off. The only one that's left is this one over here that I still need to get. The one on the bottom and the one over here are done. And what I used, the first one, I used this tool, little pick, and I just kind of used it to get in there and kind of press. And then the second time I used this bigger one, same thing. So let me see if I can kind of get in there. You can kind of see that pin up in there, I think, maybe. Let's see, okay. So I just got it up in there like that and just pressed it, and it eventually went. So you'll know. Okay, one more thing here. Sorry, the sun was making it hard to film this. Can I get the angle? I hope so. So you see this little black tab right there. So that's what we're trying to get to push out. So the pin's right in here. Once that tab goes past that pin, then this is free to come loose. So over here on this side, if you can see that little pin, that little black pin is right in there, but it has already gone past that pin. So the black one here is not past it, but it is over there. So that's what we are trying to do, is we are trying to get this little black part past that pin, and that's why we got to press that metal pin in. All right, so I'm going to turn it this way, try to get access to that last one. There we go. Whoo, okay. So, finally got it off. All right, leave her straight again. So it is loose. Okay, so now from this angle. So again, here's all the pins that we were trying to push in, right? So we were going in like that. When there's nothing there, and there's no tension, it's actually pretty easy. And then there's the one more on the bottom there. The first two came out without too much trouble, and then the last one was a bugger. But what I finally did, I used this short little flathead, and I did it from the top at this angle. And let's see if I can see it here, because obviously this is where this little piece here kind of snaps in. But from the back side, you can, there's like a little notch. Again, let me show it to you on this one here. This little notch in here, these notches, you can like move the whole thing that way. Sorry, go in that way. See? So you really can't do it from this part. You have to only access the notch from this part. And on that last one, what worked for me was a nice fat screwdriver. And I pressed in really hard as I twisted. And then I finally got it to go that way. So the fatter the screwdriver, the better probably there. So as you can see, there's a couple electrical connectors right here. And there's another one over here that we're gonna need to take off to fully pull this off. So for the small black one in the corner, I'm just using a little flathead to gently pry up on it, and it pulls out with no effort whatsoever. I'll show you that plug again here in a second. And then the other ones, looks like you gotta squeeze them right here. But my big chunky fingers can't fit in there. So if I just very gently, you shouldn't need a pliers this big, but there you go. And then I should be able to get that one. There you go. So now the airbag is completely off. We're going to set that to the side. Okay, again, so these were the 3 wires. These 2 here, literally, if you look at them from the top here, if I can get a good angle, you see those little squeeze pins? You just squeeze them and it slides off with no pressure. They're both the same style. The first one, because they were super close like this, First one, I just got pliers and I gently squeezed on these outside tabs and it pulled up. And then this one here, as you can see if I can get a good angle on it here. There's a little notch right there, and there's just a little tab that slides over it, snaps on, and I just took that baby flathead and I've gently lifted and this slid out. I could just unplug this, I guess, and leave that ground wire attached. Okay, so that literally just squeeze that bottom tab there and pull out. Super simple. Make sure your wheels are straight. So make sure you're not like 360 degrees. Yeah, like my wheels are not straight. See that? That's why you always double check. I wouldn't have wanted to take the steering wheel off when it was in that position. It would not have been ideal. So we're cranking it all the way over. No power steering. All right. Make sure our wheels are straight now. There we go. Now they're straight. Okay, so now we need to take off this big bolt here. The main bolt that holds on the steering wheel. It's a 24 millimeter. So now we're going to take off this big bolt here. I just have a decent sized ratchet, 1/2 inch drive here, and my socket. Obviously at this point you don't want the keys in because you don't want the steering wheel to move on you easily. Let's see here, that's steering wheel's getting in the way just a little bit. I might have to use an extension here, it looks like. Just barely. Well, let's see here. I wonder. Yeah. It's almost in the perfectly wrong spot. So I'm going to get a little adapter or extension. So I'm going to kind of hold the steering wheel while I do this, trying to break it loose here. Hopefully this adapter will work here. Yeah, okay, so that did not take much force to break it loose. I think I can probably do it by hand now. Yep, it's coming. Okay. There you go. So it's got a big old washer on there. And that's what it looks like. So the bolt's out. At this point, the steering wheel shouldn't just slide off. I'm just going to give it a very small tug. Yeah. Okay. But as you can probably see in here, and then of course on my new one here, there are splines in there. So this is where we want to make sure that the steering wheel is as straight as it can be, because that shaft is a spline shaft, and when we go to mount the new one here, if it's off by a little bit, it's going to throw off your steering alignment. Now, a small amount, like if it's off by 1 or 2 splines, a small amount can be accommodated for the next time you have an alignment done. But obviously you want to get it as close as you can. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't have marking compound or something, just use a Sharpie or whatever you got. And I'm just going to draw a line from top to bottom all the way across and mark the shaft too. Because again, we're not going to be reusing this steering wheel. So the marks on this steering wheel are more of just a guide. I'm going to do it right under this little point here. And then if I have to, I can even try to count splines on the new one versus the old one to make sure that we're lined up correctly. Okay, so now I've marked it. Now once this is off, you'll see that there is actually a little mark that lines up with this notch on the steering wheel. So this is pretty hard to screw up, but still. Okay, so now's the time to try to pull off the steering wheel. Now we can't do this by hand, so there's a little tool that we need. See right here where it says pull, and then right there it says pull. We'll need a 2-jaw gear puller. A 3-jaw style won't work because the jaws need to be directly 180 degrees apart from each other. Some steering wheels have like little threaded holes, and there's a tool called a steering wheel puller where you thread in those little bolts, And then there's like a sort of a little cross beam and then another bolt that when you tighten down on the actual shaft itself, the threaded bolts will pull out. And that's how those ones work. But since we don't have that style, we don't need to worry about that. We need the 2-jaw puller style. So this is what I mean by the 2-jaw puller. This is a 3-piece set here. So it's got three different sizes, and we'll just find the one that works best for us. I think this whole set cost about $30 or less. Now you can see here, this is the smallest of the 3 pullers. I think this was a 4-inch. As you can see, this part down here, I'm sorry, this end right here is too fat to fit in right there. So I just need to flip this around because this end is more skinny than this end is. Okay, so let me show you the setup that I have here. Unfortunately, these ones did not work because this point on here was just a little too wide to fit through the splines here. So I had another one of these that is older. And this part on the end was also just barely too wide. I tried sanding this down, and if I had more time here, that would work. This piece here almost fits in the hole, but I don't know, maybe all these 2-jaw pullers are made for other cars, not Ford steering wheels. So what I did here was I found a socket that fits in there, and then I just put this one up against it, just very carefully. You know, I hand snugged all this down. So we got these arms under the 2 tabs there that say pull. It's snug right now. And you want to try to make sure that this is going straight in. You don't want it at a weird angle here. You don't want it coming in from the side this way or whatever. You know, you want it more or less going straight in. So I will be going slow here. So now you just stick a socket on the end here, and you're going to slowly tighten. And if all goes well, it should slowly pull the steering wheel off of those splines. I'm going to put on the safety goggles here just in case that socket goes flying out of there for some reason. I'm going to go slow, try to make sure it's aligned properly, but you never know. All right, let's see here. And that did it. The steering wheel is off. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the time to kind of clean up. It's pretty dusty around here. Kind of clean up in here, maybe blow some air in there, or gently wipe it down. So here's the clock spring here. There's no need for me to remove that. But if you needed to, same process. Okay, so here it is, all cleaned up here, looking a little better. Got all the dirt and grime off of it. Got all the splines here cleaned up. Now, let me show you here real quick. So you see that little notch there at the top on the steering shaft? that lines up with that other little notch on the steering wheel. Okay, so we just feed these wires through the top here. All right. Trying to make sure that tab on top is lined up with that little notch I showed you. Okay, that's pretty good. Now the clock spring also has these little tabs that have to go in a certain way. So the clock spring only fits a certain way in there. Okay, so hopefully you can see that little notch at the top of the steering shaft and how it's lined up with the tab right there on the steering wheel. And then, so this wire just feeds through there. That's the clock spring there that I was talking about. Here's the little tabs right here for the clock spring. And this you just gently line it up and press it on the splines by hand. And then now it's time to put on our bolt. It looks like our bolt came with red thread locker. I don't think I have any red, but I do have blue, so I'm going to use that. The red is a little bit stronger bond than the blue, but we're going to use what I have here. So I'll clean off these threads really quick and I'll put some of that on. Okay, so I just used a little metal brush to clean off the threads, and I put some blue thread locker on there. Now I'm just going to start it by hand, snug it up all the way as far as I can by hand. And there we go. And then now as we torque it down, it'll pull the steering wheel back onto the splines. So now you want to torque the nut down. The torque spec that I got varied from about 22 foot-pounds to about 37, but most of them seem to be centered around 30 to 35. Yeah, there were many different sources and none of them had the same torque spec. So I would like to err on the higher side on this sort of thing because you don't want the steering wheel to fall off. It shouldn't, but right now I'm just snugging it up by hand there a little bit. So I'm going to start with about 30 foot-pounds and then I might go a little bit more. If you have an inch-pounds style torque wrench, all you have to do is multiply by 12 and that'll convert to foot-pounds. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to use an extension. I don't like to use extensions when I'm doing torque because it can change the accuracy. But I think I'm going to have to here. So I'm going to kind of hold the steering wheel while I do this. And just slowly torque it down. It's really not that much torque, so especially with a big ratchet like this. If you wanted to, you could lock the steering wheel at this point, but I'm just trying to hold it as straight as I can. All right. Give it a little test tug. Key's not in, but let's see. Here's the key. Okay. Okay. We're pretty good. All right, we are on the home stretch now. The new steering wheel comes with its own new plugs here. It's got a new ground, everything. So you just got to plug them in. Now these ones here, if you can see from there, there's a gray one and a black one. And the plugs here, sockets, if you will, are the same color. So there's kind of an off-white gray one and a black one. So you want to match those up to the same color. So we have everything connected. I'll show you real quick. So it should look like this. So gray on gray, black on black. This little black connector. And then of course we plugged this one back in there. Okay, so now we just need to line these little 3 tabs up, of course, with these holes, right? And there's one more down there. There are little locating tabs as well. You may have seen them there, but there's 3 little locating tabs, or just two on the sides here, and not on the bottom. But you pretty much line everything up there for you. Okay. And then you just give it a good press, and they all snap in. That feels good. It's really easy. Doesn't take much force. All right, guys. I mean, we are, I'd say, over 90% done at this point. All we really got to do is put on our little 2 trim pieces and reconnect our battery, and we are done. So let me show you this here. Okay, so now it's time to put our trim pieces back on. So we're going to start with the bottom here. I gotta work it around the adjustable tilt steering wheel lever. So let's see here. Right, okay, I'm actually going to pull down this other trim panel. You literally just pull it down a little bit, just to give me a little more clearance here. Oh, there we go. Maneuver that lever. Okay. Finally got it past there. Lever is through. That's good. All right. So kind of press that up into place. Make sure it's over the lock cylinder. There we go. Okay, so remember you got 3 5.5mm bolts, just little small ones there. Start these by hand. Make sure I don't cross thread them. If they're not threading in right away, make sure that you press up on the trim piece all the way so it's fully seated. All right, so my camera stopped filming there for a second, but all I did was I stamped on this top trim piece. I just used the little hazard light here as a guide. Then I hooked up my little Bluetooth speaker right there. But yeah, we're all done. All you gotta do now is reconnect the car battery and you are all set. Honestly, guys, I mean, obviously this here doesn't match, but I don't think it looks bad. Almost looks like a custom wheel in a way. And I mean, this is already kind of like a tri-color interior, so it's certainly better than having that old torn up steering wheel. You know, now I can have a nice new steering wheel again there. Honestly, guys, this job's really not that bad. The worst part was trying to get off the airbag here. The first 2 clips weren't too bad. That 3rd clip gave me some trouble. And then other than that, it was just the tool, you know, the 2-jaw puller not fitting in the splines. And if you have that same problem, just find a socket that fits and then use the tool to press on the socket. Just be careful with it. I mean, honestly, I think if you don't struggle too much getting off the airbag, I think this is a job that you could easily do within an hour. It definitely took me longer to film it and do all that, but it's really not a bad job. So yeah, hope this helps, guys, and good luck.